All right, with the breaking news of Dave Canales now being the head coach with the Carolina Panthers, it brings in a lot of questions. Can he replicate the same success that he had with Russell Wilson and Geno Smith and with Baker Mayfield with Bryce Young? But before I get more into the video, I have a very special guest today.
What's going on, everybody? It's your man C. Dougie over here. What's up, Doug? It's a pleasure to join my guy AJ here to talk about my Carolina Panthers, man. Let's go ahead and get into it. We got our new coach, new GM, and Dan Morgan. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Now, like Doug just said, it's very interesting. Dan Morgan is a brand new general manager with this team, and he did a lot of work with Dave Canales in Seattle. And you talk about what he was able to do with the Seattle Seahawks in 2010 from 2017. He was a wide receiver coach. And we all know this about the Seattle Seahawks. They always have good wide receivers, from DK Metcalf to Doug Baldwin to Tyler Lockett. He played a big role in helping those guys get right on the offensive end. And he was also the pass game coordinator in 2020 to 2021. And he was the quarterback's coach from 2022, which got him the job with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be the offensive coordinator. And he was able to go out and resurrect every single guy's career that he's worked with. But the biggest thing is with the Carolina Panthers, they have a lot of question marks on the offensive end. This is a team that was 32nd in passing defense and passing offense and 32nd in total offense.
When you look at it, just out, looking it through a glass window, Dan Morgan and Dan Canales had a connection in Seattle. Both went their separate ways and are back and have a connection. Dan Morgan being assistant GM in Buffalo underneath Brandon Beane, and Dave Canales being underneath Pete Carroll, and now Todd Bowles, and having a resurgence of Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield is the reason why he got this job. And for him to have the upper hand when you look at it for a in-division rivals offensive coordinator to already know how to game plan for the Saints, for the Carolina Panthers, which is now our coach, but then you also have Atlanta Falcons. I think Dan Canales, all in all, is a great hire. I think a lot of people are just not patient, just like our owner. You have to practice patience with this hire. But again, having a GM and a head coach on the same page and having the same mindset, that's the very first step into doing and making the playoffs and being a dynasty.
And the thing is with that, like you mentioned before, this is a franchise. Since David Tepper acquired the team, they've been switching through a lot of head coaches. You had Matt Rule, who was a terrible head coach with this team. You had Frank Reich, who got fired at the halfway point in the season. And now you're entering a brand new era with Dave Canales. They have to be patient here. Bryce Young did not look particularly well last season, but it wasn't all on Bryce Young. He had 11 passing touchdowns to 10 interceptions. But one thing a lot of people don't talk about, he was the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL. 62 times next to Sam Howell. And the biggest thing here, they're going to have to fix the offensive line. The wide receivers are an issue, but this offensive line needs to be fixed. They selected Icky in the first round a couple of years ago at the left tackle spot. The back half of his rookie season, he did look good, but he is more of a guard than he is a tackle. And that's the biggest thing with this team. They need tackle help. Taylor Moton is still a solid tackle at the right tackle position, but the entire offensive line needs to be worked on. And this is a team that did go out there and they did work on their offensive line. They got Bradley at the center position just a year ago. You got Austin Corbett as well. He wasn't able to stay healthy this season. Started the season off dealing with a knee injury, and he missed a good portion of the season. And he was trying to play his way back into shape. I think that he could be a very good guard with this team, but Icky is a huge question mark because he doesn't want to play guard with this team, but he would be better at the guard position. You look at the wide receivers. Adam Thielen was the number one target with this team. That's a good and a bad thing. It shows a lot that Adam Thielen can still go out there and still can be a number one wide receiver in a way, 1,014 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. But at the same time, he's 33 years old. He's not going to be the same guy he was in the past. You need to get help at the wide receiving spot. Jonathan Mingo is a solid wide receiver. He did not have a receiving touchdown this season. You hope that he can grow and he can develop with a guy like Bryce Young. But when you look at the free agent targets that they're going to be able to go out there and target, hopefully it can be a guy like a T. Higgins or a guy like Calvin Ridley.
So when you look at it, that's the reason why Dave Canales was the candidate for this job. With the woes and the disappointments in our offensive line, just look at how he used Rayshawn White, the running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of screen plays, a lot of getting the ball out of your quarterback's hands and getting into your weapons. Just look at what Mike Evans was able to do during the playoffs. Then also look at what Godwin was able to do and their rookie and Palmer. Just with that Eagles game, it was like, what type of team are we actually looking at underneath the offense of Dave Canales. I understand statistic-wise they are not up there, but if you look at when it counted, Dave Canales really transformed Baker Mayfield's career. I mean, most of his best numbers were underneath Dave Canales. Also, Geno Smith before he came to Tampa. But with the weapons of Carolina, that's why it is important for Dan Morgan to hit the ground running with getting free agents, making sure you had the right draft picks. But again, it's a process. You don't try to get to the money so fast. Rome wasn't built in one day. It's going to take a process, but I think you have the right coach, the right mindset of a coach. That is a leader. That is well respected. And your owner is going to show that toughness and grit to make sure that roster is complete. So you don't have to worry about major holes, but we have to start filling these holes if we want to start seeing wins in the W column.
And the biggest thing, too, is with DJ Chark. Did miss some time this season. Did have a bad play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a couple of weeks ago on the 1-yard line. It would have went for a touchdown, but he fumbled the ball. It was a touchback. But on the season, 525 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. He averaged 15 yards a catch. I think that he has a role on this team of being a deep threat. He can open up things for guys underneath, such as guys like Adam Thielen and for Jonathan Mingo as well. But the offense needs a complete reset, and they need to reset this philosophy because this is a defense last season that was very good. They were 4th in total defense. They were 3rd in passing defense, and give Coach Eviru a lot of credit for that. He went out there and coached his team up. I know a lot of Carolina Panther fans wanted Ben Johnson, but I do think that it's addition by subtraction. You go out there, you get Dave Canales, you take him away for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you put him with this team. And like I mentioned before, with the defense, they have a good nucleus over there. You have a guy like Brian Burns. Now, the Los Angeles Rams offseason ago offered this team 2 first-round picks to take this guy off their hands. They didn't want to do that. That's another reason why Scott Fitterer got fired, and he's no longer the general manager with this team. Brian Burns can still be traded, but they're going to have to do a transitional type of tag with that. On the season, 8 sacks, 1 forced fumble. He wasn't that same defensive end with this team, but he's still very good with this roster. You have Frankie Louvu, who has been Mr. Consistent all season long. 5.5 sacks, very good in coverage as well. He's just an ultimate playmaker with this team. And I love their secondary. You have J.C. Horn, who's a top corner with this team, and the same with Dante Jackson as well. And I like the safeties such as Von Bell and Xavier Woods and Jeremy Chin. Jeremy Chin is a good safety, but his role was minimized this season with this team. Do they want to bring him back? Should they let him go? But the defense is the main thing with this team. As long as they can keep this defense intact and they have the offense to wake up, they can win some football games in this division.
I mean, we've been hearing that for years and years. Carolina's defense is good, offense is bad. But I think you have a young, innovative coach who is not going to have a brain trust of older versus younger coaches. And I also think we plugged Dave Canales right before he was going to be a hot commodity like Ben Johnson. But again, Dan Morgan's job is going to be very difficult because you do have to figure out what you're going to do with Brian Burns. You do have Derrick Brown, who is a Pro Bowler who's about to come up on a 5th-year option next year. Are you going to bring back Jeremy Chin, who was a top 3 pick whenever he was in his draft class? A lot of people want to see Dante Jackson be moved. Are you going to bring him back? Are you going to give a 5th-year option to J.C. Horn because he's, has that tag of being injury prone? There's going to be a lot of answers and a lot of questions be answered this offseason. But again, the defense is the standstill and the standpoint of this team. Now it's just time to get that offense on track so we can have both on both sides of the ball and 11 personnel on both sides to keep us out of the bottom of the NFL over and over.
And the biggest thing here with the Panthers, like Doug preached, is patience. That you're going to have to be with this team. I understand a season ago they said, hey, we're just a quarterback away. That was not the case. And they went out there and they have not been able to go out there and hire the right head coach. Hopefully this is the right head coach with this team because like I mentioned before, David Tepper has been going around throwing around a lot of money. You've had a lot of coaches come in and out with this team for the last couple of years, and it shows signs of being a poverty franchise, which they have been since 2018. The last time they had a winning season was in 2017. And they went to the playoffs. They did lose in the wild card, but they went and had some success then with Cam Newton and crew. Since then, they have not been able to go out there and replicate that success. Hopefully, this is the right head coach because, like I mentioned before, Matt Rule was terrible. You had Joe Brady, who was the offensive coordinator with this team. He was basically the scapegoat with Matt Rule. He is over there with the Buffalo Bills right now having a lot of success. They have not been able to figure out the coaching with this team. On the defensive end, they have looked solid because of the defensive pieces. But as a whole, they need to figure out their offensive identity. Do they want to be a run team? You look at Chuba Hubbard. Very good running back with this team, was the best running back last season with this team. That's a good and a bad thing because this team went out there, they signed Miles Sanders to be the top running back with this team. And that was because Frank Reich was the head coach, Deuce Staley was the running backs coach. They're all going. And I look at a contract like Miles Sanders, it will be hard to get off of, but they're going to have to. He looked like an average running back with this team. Matter of fact, he's like a below average running back with this team. The only reason that he has success in the past is because he was running behind the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line and he had Jalen Hurts to play off of. They're going to have to find a way to get off of that contract with a guy like Miles Sanders.
Yeah, man. Miles Sanders is a contract. Again, Dan Morgan has a task, tall task to address. But I do think Miles Sanders won't be here. Hopefully we can trade for him. I think we do need another running back to go along with the philosophy and scheme that Dave Canales runs with running backs. Again, we shouted out Rachaad White for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He had a great year. And again, I think that's going to help Bryce as well. I think in the scheme, you have to get playmakers. And that's one name where I know Carolina's been high on T. Higgins. We're going to get a wide receiver, regardless if it's 2 in free agency or 2 in the draft. But Bryce is going to have weapons. You're not going to have to worry about that separation or, oh, Adam Thielen is so old. He's your leading receiver. Where's Hayden Hurst? Those questions will be answered in this offseason because your quarterback needs weapons. What those weapons are, we all have to wait and see, man. But I'm definitely excited for this hire. Definitely looking forward to the next step in hiring a staff. Scouting and free agency, man. So again, I welcome Dave Canales to the Carolinas, man, and I appreciate Dan Morgan and David Semper doing due diligence for it.
And the biggest thing I ask you guys is, do you think they did the right move by hiring a guy like Dave Canales, or do you wish they would have went into a different direction? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Doug, tell them where they can find you.
Yes, sir. You can find me on YouTube at WASSUP space DOUG. What's up, Dub? We already dropped our video over there. I appreciate my guy AJ having me come on. If you want further analysis, go ahead and hit that video, the newest video over there, the rebirth of the Carolina Panthers, man. Again, it's always good to come up and support my guy AJ, man. Like he said, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button. One love.
And most importantly, one each and every last one, guys, stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.